This is the USS Gerald R. Ford, America's most powerful Navy warship. Imagine a floating city the size of 3 football fields, a nuclear reactor humming beneath your feet, and an invisible force strong enough to hurl fighter jets into the sky before breakfast. Now imagine this city costs more than some countries' annual budgets and still hasn't stopped teaching the US Navy hard lessons. The USS Gerald R. Ford is the largest and most expensive warship ever built. At over 1,100 feet long, displacing roughly 100,000 tons, it is not just a ship, it's a moving airbase. It carries up to 90 aircraft. It can sail for decades without refueling its nuclear reactors, and it serves as the centerpiece of the entire carrier Strike Group 12. Where the Ford goes, American air power follows. Quick question, before we go further, would you have approved building this ship knowing what it would cost? Let's put this beast into perspective. Stretching 1,106 feet long, that's longer than 3 football fields laid end to end. Rising 20 stories above the waterline, this floating fortress houses a crew of 4,500 sailors and airmen, making it a city unto itself in the middle of the ocean. When fully loaded, it displaces 100,000 tons of water, roughly equivalent to the weight of 700 blue whales. But size is just the beginning. The Ford can carry up to 75 aircraft in actual combat configuration, with capacity for 90 during surge operations. This devastating mix includes FA-18 Super Hornets, EA-18G Growlers for electronic warfare, E-2D Hawkeyes for early warning, MH-60 helicopters, and the Navy's newest addition, the stealthy F-35C Lightning II. Together, these aircraft give the carrier the ability to strike targets up to 1,000 miles away, conduct reconnaissance across hundreds of thousands of square miles, and establish air superiority over an area larger than most countries. At the heart of this ship is something radically new. Instead of steam-powered catapults, the Ford launches aircraft using electromagnetic force. This system, called EMALS, uses linear motors to accelerate jets smoothly off the deck. No steam, no pistons, just electricity. That matters because it reduces stress on aircraft, allows lighter drones to be launched, and resets faster between takeoffs. Traditional carriers use steam catapults, technology that's remained essentially unchanged since World War II. Steam catapults are mechanical, brutal, and inefficient. They stress aircraft airframes, require constant maintenance, and use enormous amounts of fresh water that has to be distilled from seawater. The Ford's electromagnetic system uses linear induction motors, the same basic technology behind some high-speed trains, to accelerate a 30-ton aircraft from 0 to 170 miles per hour in just 2 seconds. The result? Less wear on aircraft, more launches per day, and far fewer sailors needed to maintain the system. The ship also uses advanced arresting gear to catch jets as they land, replacing decades-old hydraulic systems with energy-absorbing technology. Where older carriers use hydraulic systems to catch landing aircraft, the Ford uses electromagnetic motors that can precisely control the deceleration of any aircraft, from a lightweight drone to a heavy fighter jet loaded with weapons and fuel. This precision means less stress on aircraft and the ability to recover a wider variety of aircraft types, including unmanned vehicles that will increasingly populate carrier decks in the coming decades. Faster launches, safer recoveries, higher sortie rates. The Navy designed the Ford to generate about 25% more daily sorties than the older Nimitz-class carriers. While a Nimitz-class carrier can generate about 120 sorties per day during sustained operations, the Ford is designed to surge up to 160, a 33% increase. In a conflict where every sortie matters, where every hour counts, that difference could determine the outcome of a battle or even a war. More planes in the air, more often. To support all this, the Ford has a brand new nuclear reactor design. The A-1B reactor produces nearly 3 times more electrical power than previous carrier reactors. The Ford houses 2 of these reactors that together produce about 700 megawatts of electricity. That's enough power to run a city of 100,000 people. And here's the kicker. These reactors will run for 50 years without refueling. 50 years. The Ford could theoretically sail around the world continuously for decades without ever needing to stop for fuel. That electricity feeds radar systems, launch systems, and future weapons that don't even exist yet. This massive power output enables everything from the electromagnetic launch system to advanced sensors and leaves enormous capacity for directed energy weapons like lasers and railguns that could defend against incoming missiles. This ship isn't just built for today's wars, it's wired for tomorrow's. But innovation at this scale never comes easily. From the start, the USS Gerald R. Ford faced serious growing pains. EMALS suffered from reliability issues, advanced weapons elevators failed tests, software bugs slowed deployments. Each fix took time. Each delay added cost. Each headline sparked political firestorms. The Ford's development became a cautionary tale in defense procurement. The electromagnetic launch system experienced repeated failures during testing. The advanced arresting gear struggled to reliably catch aircraft. The weapons elevators, designed to bring munitions from the magazines deep in the ship up to the flight deck, became a nightmare of technical problems. What was supposed to be 11 advanced electromagnetic elevators turned into a years-long saga of missed deadlines and frustrated engineers. The cost overruns became legendary. The initial budget of $10.5 billion balloons to $13 billion. Congressional hearings were held. Defense analysts questioned whether the Navy had tried to incorporate too many new technologies simultaneously. Critics asked a blunt question: why gamble so much on unproven technology when older carriers already worked? The answer lies in what carriers actually represent. Pause for a second. Do you think innovation like this should be tested on real ships or perfected first? To understand why America invested $13 billion in one ship, we need to step back and look at the bigger picture of how carriers became the ultimate symbol of naval power. The aircraft carrier as a concept emerged in the early 20th century, but it was World War II that proved its dominance. The Pacific theater became a laboratory for carrier warfare, where battles like Midway demonstrated that whoever controlled the air controlled the sea. The battleship, once the undisputed king of naval warfare, became obsolete almost overnight. By 1945, it was clear: if you wanted to project military power across oceans, you needed carriers. After World War II, the United States made a strategic decision that would shape global geopolitics for the next 8 decades. America would maintain a fleet of supercarriers, massive nuclear-powered vessels that could station combat aircraft anywhere in the world's oceans. These floating air bases became the cornerstone of what military strategists call forward presence, the ability to respond to crises anywhere on the planet within days or even hours. This next detail is the reason the Navy took the risk. Don't miss it. A carrier doesn't need permission to operate. It doesn't need host nation approval. It brings its own runway wherever it goes. That makes carriers instruments of influence, not just weapons of war. The logic is compelling. A carrier strike group doesn't need permission to station itself in international waters. It doesn't require negotiations with host countries or complex basing agreements. It can't be kicked out when political winds shift. During the 1996 Taiwan Strait crisis, when China launched missiles near Taiwan to intimidate the island democracy, President Clinton didn't call a meeting or issue a statement. He sent 2 carrier strike groups. The message was unmistakable, and the crisis de-escalated. When a carrier strike group enters a region, it sends a message without firing a shot. To allies, we're here. To adversaries, we can reach you. That strategic flexibility is why carriers still matter even in an age of hypersonic missiles and space warfare. This is why America operates 11 aircraft carriers, while most countries operate 0. France has 1. China has 3, though only 1 is truly operational, with the others still working up capability. Russia's single carrier is so unreliable it travels with its own tugboat in case it breaks down. The United Kingdom just commissioned 2 new carriers, but they're significantly smaller than American supercarriers and don't carry nearly as many aircraft. But the threats are real. Modern anti-ship missiles can travel thousands of kilometers. Quiet submarines stalk the oceans. Satellites watch every movement. So the Ford was designed with survivability in mind. more power for sensors, more automation to reduce crew size, more flexibility to integrate future defenses. It's not invincible, but it's adaptable. This is why we don't just talk about hardware here. We talk about the system behind it. The Ford class was born from a recognition that the Nimitz-class carriers, excellent as they were designed in the 1960s. Think about that. The basic design was contemporary with the Apollo program, with rotary phones, with computers that filled entire rooms. The Navy realized that 50 years of technological advancement could be incorporated into a new design that would serve for the next 50 years. But designing a new carrier class is extraordinarily risky. The Nimitz class worked, it was proven. Sailors understood it, admirals trusted it, and it had successfully projected American power for half a century. Changing everything meant accepting enormous technical risk, and that's exactly what happened. The Navy's answer to critics was simple: China. While the Ford was being designed and built, China was transforming from a regional land power into a global maritime force at breathtaking speed. The People's Liberation Army Navy went from operating coastal patrol boats to launching domestically built carriers in less than 2 decades. Chinese military modernization focused heavily on what strategists call anti-access area denial, essentially building weapons systems specifically designed to keep American carriers away from China's coast. The DF-21D and DF-26D ballistic missiles, dubbed carrier killers by Western analysts, are designed to strike moving ships at sea from over 1,000 miles away. Hypersonic glide vehicles that can maneuver unpredictably during their terminal phase make interception extraordinarily difficult. Quiet diesel-electric submarines lurk in the shallow waters of the Taiwan Strait and South China Sea. All of these systems share one purpose: making it dangerous, if not impossible, for American carriers to operate near China. The Ford's advanced systems are designed to address this challenge. The extra electrical power isn't just for launching aircraft. It's for future directed energy weapons like lasers and railguns that could defend against incoming missiles. The increased sortie rate means the carrier can put more aircraft in the air faster, overwhelming enemy defenses. The ability to operate unmanned aircraft means fewer pilots are put at risk in contested airspace. This is the chess match of great power competition playing out on the world's oceans. China builds missiles to sink carriers. America builds carriers that can defend against missiles and strike back from greater ranges. China expands its navy. America builds more advanced ships. Each move prompts a countermove. Billions of dollars wagered on technologies that everyone hopes will never actually be used in combat. The geographic reality of the Pacific Ocean makes carriers essential for American strategy. Unlike Europe, where the United States can base aircraft in allied countries like Germany, Poland, and the United Kingdom, the Pacific is defined by vast distances and scattered island chains. To credibly defend treaty allies like Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines, or to respond to a crisis in the Taiwan Strait, carriers provide the only realistic way to bring overwhelming air power to bear quickly. But carriers are also vulnerable in ways that land bases aren't. A carrier represents an enormous concentration of American power in a single vessel. Sinking a Ford-class carrier would kill thousands of sailors and airmen, destroy 75 aircraft, and eliminate billions of dollars of military capability in a single strike. It would be the worst American military disaster since Pearl Harbor. This vulnerability is why carriers never operate alone. They're surrounded by an entire battle group, guided missile cruisers bristling with air defense systems, destroyers equipped with the Aegis combat system, attack submarines prowling underwater, and supply ships that keep the whole formation fed, fueled, and armed. If understanding how power actually works interests you, you're in the right place. Life aboard the Ford is a mix of tradition and transformation. Thousands of sailors live inside a steel city. Flight deck crews move with choreographed precision. Jets roar overhead day and night. Imagine you're a sailor stationed aboard the Ford. You're living in a city that moves. The ship has its own post office, its own television station, its own newspaper. There are barbershops, a dental clinic, a medical facility that can perform major surgeries. The galley serves 18,000 meals per day, cycling through breakfast, lunch, dinner, and midnight rations for sailors working around the clock. The ship distills 400,000 gallons of fresh water from seawater every single day for drinking, cooking, and bathing. The flight deck is one of the most dangerous workplaces on Earth.
Aircraft weighing tens of thousands of pounds launch and land in controlled chaos every few minutes during flight operations. Jet engines create 140 decibel roars that can cause permanent hearing damage in seconds. Jet blast from a launching fighter can blow a person overboard or into a spinning propeller. Every sailor on deck wears a color-coded jersey: purple for fuel handlers, red for ordnance crews, yellow for aircraft directors, green for maintenance, blue for aircraft handlers. This rainbow of colors allows everyone to instantly recognize who does what in an environment where mistakes can be fatal. Below deck in the magazines, ordnance crews manage an arsenal that would make most countries jealous. The Ford can carry over 3 million pounds of ammunition and missiles: air-to-air missiles for fighter combat, precision-guided bombs for striking ground targets, anti-ship missiles, standoff weapons that can strike from hundreds of miles away. All of this has to be stored, maintained, moved, and loaded onto aircraft in a space-constrained environment, often while the ship is pitching and rolling in heavy seas. The reactor spaces are another world entirely. Deep in the ship's hull, nuclear-trained personnel monitor the two reactors that power this floating city. These sailors go through some of the most rigorous technical training in the military, essentially earning the equivalent of an engineering degree before they ever step aboard. They work in controlled environments where precision and protocol aren't suggestions, they're absolute requirements. The safety record of the American nuclear navy is pristine: 70 years of operating nuclear-powered vessels without a single reactor accident. What's truly remarkable is how automation has reduced the Ford's crew size. Automation reduced the crew by hundreds compared to older carriers, cutting long-term costs and easing strain on sailors. While a Nimitz-class carrier requires a ship's company of about 3,000 sailors, the Ford operates with just 2,600. That's 400 fewer people doing the same job, thanks to computerized systems that monitor machinery, automated weapons elevators, and that electromagnetic launch system that requires far fewer maintenancers than steam catapults. This crew reduction isn't just about saving money, though housing 400 fewer people does save millions in life cycle costs. It's about reducing human error, improving quality of life, and allowing each sailor to focus on higher value tasks rather than repetitive manual labor. But technology doesn't replace people, it changes what they need to know. Today's carrier sailors are technicians, software managers, systems troubleshooters. Human skill still decides whether technology succeeds. Strategically, the Ford class anchors American naval power in an era of renewed great power competition. In the Pacific, in the Middle East, in Europe, carriers remain visible symbols of commitment. They reassure allies and complicate adversaries' calculations. The Ford's first deployment in 2022 was closely watched by naval analysts worldwide. After years of development problems and criticism, would the ship actually perform as advertised? The deployment to the Atlantic and Mediterranean was successful, demonstrating that the technical problems had largely been resolved. The ship launched and recovered aircraft at the promised increased rates. The electromagnetic systems worked reliably. The Ford had proven itself. And as future carriers improve with lessons learned from the Ford, the gamble begins to pay off. Bugs get fixed, systems mature, costs stabilize. Every generation of innovation pays a learning tax. The USS Gerald Ford is paying that tax up front. But the ultimate test hasn't come yet. The Ford has never faced combat. All the simulations, all the testing, all the training exist to prepare for a day that hopefully never arrives: actual war against a peer competitor. Would the electromagnetic systems hold up under the stress of combat operations? Would the ship's defenses be adequate against modern anti-ship missiles? Could it survive in the contested waters of the Western Pacific against a determined Chinese military? These are questions no one wants answered, but they're the reason the Ford exists. Deterrence only works if potential adversaries believe you're willing and able to use your military power. A carrier battle group parked in the Philippine Sea sends a message: America can and will defend its interests and allies in this region. Challenge us at your own risk. The Ford represents a bet, a $13 billion wager that aircraft carriers remain relevant in an age of hypersonic missiles and drone swarms. It's a statement that despite the rise of new threats, despite the incredible cost, despite the technical challenges, America believes that projecting power from the sea remains essential to global stability. Imagine being responsible for making this decision: billions of dollars, global consequences. It is not just a ship, It's an experiment, a statement, and a reminder that power at sea is never simple. Time will tell if that bet pays off. But for now, the USS Gerald Ford sails the world's oceans as the most powerful warship ever built, a floating reminder that some nations still can build monuments to their technological and military capability. And in a world of rising tensions and shifting power dynamics, that capability might just make all the difference. And that's one good fact. Drop a comment. Does this ship make you feel safer or more uneasy? What matters most isn't this ship, it's what comes after it. If you want to understand the world beyond headlines, stay with one good fact, because systems shape everything. Watch the next video on Carrier Strike Group 12.